Good morning, everyone. So, rally mode or sucker rally? Which is it? Any opinions on that? Anyway, so we look at this objectively rather than have an opinion, so to speak, about something that isn't evident as of yet. So how do we approach that? Well, we've got a wide range bearish bar, a pretty big, nasty one right there, right? And so we simply just say, you know what? Trying to be as objective as possible. If it gets past that halfway point, I don't know if there's any support or resistance inside of there, but if it gets halfway past, you guys hear the puppy in the back going a little bonkers. Gets past that halfway point there, most of the time with a big bearish bar, it doesn't do that, especially if it closes past that. That would open up the door to getting all the way back up. Now, and from our method or point of view about support and resistance, not about fib lines and trend lines and indicators and all of that hocus pocus, just simply determine, okay, got past there. Historically, it doesn't. And then look inside the smaller time frame to say, well, what is directly to the left there? Well, when prices come down with a wide range bar like that, it creates what we call a price void. Price void meaning a void of a reference point to trade against. And you can see as it came down here and started to move down, it was, a full collapse vertical to the downside. Then it began to stabilize and chop around. And that's pretty much the area where it's at right now. You can look to the left and you see these overlapping bars. So for whatever reason, let's just say we didn't look to the left, further to the left there, what's going on or that day. We just say that right now, directly to the left is this choppy consolidation. And this is what should stop the advance. Right? That's the theory based on price. She's active this morning. And so past this level here, right, that opens up the door to the full void, so to speak, that could get things rallying. So what you want to do, yes, what you want to do is mark this reference point right there. If you have the futures, that if it gets above that, well, maybe it just keeps going. On the other hand, if it starts chopping around here and makes a double top, goes sideways over a period of time, then we objectively know that this supply, right, we call it resistance, but its supply is starting to be overcome the demand that has gotten prices grinding higher. And so we see a little topping tail right there. That's just the beginnings of what's going on. We got a whole 51 minutes left of this bar here within the future. So some time going sideways will tell us, black and white, whether supply is overcoming demand or whether buyers, that demand is overcoming supply or the sellers, which would then open up the door to moving up toward the high, which would seem logically, historically incredible if it could negate this 2-bar reversal. And so that is what we need to do, stay objective about it, and just looking at the cues. For some of you that don't have the futures, it's essentially the same thing. All right, so this is a 24-hour chart, 60-minute 24-hour chart, and we see this is probably a bad tick right there. We see that it's chopping around, and now that I've compressed this on the cues here, we could see why it stopped on the way down. It created a void on the way up, and then when it topped out and started coming down, there was nothing there until it got here. And so for those of you that are new to Master Trader, been studying your trend lines, your fib lines, your channels, this, that, the other thing, trying to find where support and resistance is, remove the hocus pocus BS from your chart and just look to the left. See where there's a swing low, where there's some congestion. That's where the buyers are going to be, and that's where the sellers are going to be on the way up. And then just assess the reaction to those reference points. It's that simple. You don't need all of these Ichimoku clouds and all the rest of that stuff to see where support and resistance is. Then just look at the candlestick chart or a bar chart if you don't like candles and see what happens when it gets there. Look at the trend in multiple time frames. The weekly trend is up, but at resistance, and we got a topping tail. So far, we've just got a go nowhere week. It's only Tuesday morning, right? So we'll see where this ends by the end of the week. And yesterday was pretty much what I said was likely to be a consolidation kind of a day, and it's in the lower half, so on and so forth. And we'll see what happens over the next day or so. We'll see what happens today. The Russell, which got clobbered pretty good, held. Look at that, what's directly to the left as it went down there yesterday, and it popped back up. And this is minor resistance, a little subjective. It's beyond what's directly to the left, but it comes into play. And so we can see where prices are at, right? So here's the intraday reaction. And so now prices just chopping around. They're obviously in the lower half. So far, this daily chart suggests it's going lower, but we'll see what happens. The longer it can stay at the bottom of this big, ugly red bar, the greater the probability that it goes down. Because right now it's got the void above. It's got to create resistance. And another way of looking at it is buyers are stepping up here. Maybe they think, okay, you know what? This is down X%. It's a good place to get long. Maybe it is. But the longer it goes sideways here, they're going to start to lose confidence about that. And if it starts to tick down, those buyers that created demand to stabilize things are going to start selling, and that demand is going to turn into supply, and that is going to drive prices lower to the next reference point. That's how the markets operate. That is how trading operates, meaning prices move from one reference point to another reference point. They either create support or resistance. They either fail at the reference points, and that brings in the whole conversation about multiple time frames and failure patterns and volume, if we could add that, and all the other technical concepts that come together that point us in the direction of high probability scenarios or situations. Transports, right, they're hanging in this area, but they didn't do much to hold up yesterday, and they closed below their opening price. They tried to move higher and they moved down. Look at the volume here. Can this turn around? Sure, I suppose it's possible, but right now sellers are in control. We can see that hourly's in a downtrend. There's no stabilization yet, and so we'll see what happens here. Now, lower highs and lower lows, but the depth of retracement, I don't need any fib levels, right, to start measuring here. I can see that this retraced about 80%, and that's a positive to retrace that far against a move like that. But now it's turned back down, and so we'll see. Does it hold? Well, you can see this area right here of these overlapping bars, these open and closes. And we'll see if it can hold here or whether it keeps going down. If it can get above yesterday's high today, well, that would be a positive against this negative downward trending move. Right? Simple. Dow, kind of sideways, same thing, essentially a go nowhere day yesterday. It kind of popped up, it went down, it ended up pretty much where it opened and a little bit down from the prior day's close. So not a biggie one way or the other. It's up here a bit up near this resistance area. We'll see where it goes today. Futures, same story. We looked at the NASDAQ 100 futures a little while ago. And so right there's the reference point with the futures, 28.28, 28.30, let's call it 30. That's the whole number. But if it hangs here and begins to drop, well, now from the idea of creating support, well, yesterday created support. This is still an uptrend against a big, ugly bar. And that's rather confusing, honestly, to tell you that, meaning that a big, ugly red bar and a breakout failure is a cause for concern. Right? That creates uncertainty, yet it's in an uptrend. So who's going to win here, the trend or the big, ugly red bar? Prices are in this resistance area, so it's not so easy to determine that. And you need more information. Now, that doesn't mean you can't trade individual stocks. You can have a bias now based on where prices are at and that failure and short, and do the same thing I was saying. If it closes past that 50% mark, you could cover part of your position. And clearly, if it goes up here, that's a big wow. So just approach it, with a simple, objective method. All right, sideways consolidation, chopping around here, lower high, possibly higher low, inflection point. Which way is it going to go? I don't know right now. I mean, based on the extent of the move and this chopping around, you would think it would roll over, but especially with that big red bar, but it's really not all that clear just yet. So you stand aside, go find. We were finding in the room yesterday, right? Lots of stocks that look like they're going higher, that look good. And just looking across what's going along the bottom here, well, Amazon up 17. Roku created the miracle reversal yesterday. I saw Google was up a whole bunch. So, 10, 11 points there. So, there's still buyers stepping up. Tesla here is up 3. That didn't look so great yesterday. Actually looked pretty bad. And so Apple up almost 3. So, I mean, markets are up here. Those things tend to go up. But, Apple, we saw that couldn't get off the mat yesterday. So bonds, holding up here, up at this resistance area. Of course, now, everybody's starting to take notice. We talked about yield curves with this going up. And now, before I came on here, I saw they were talking on CNBC about now the possibility of interest rate cut. So they're doing their damnedest here to keep this market going up. And maybe they will be able to do it. We'll see. I mean, if they cut interest rates, and then you really need to see what the market thinks about that. And I don't have the symbol in here. Let's type it in. I don't think I have it. Look at 3-month rates. They've been going up since 2016. So this is something to keep an eye on. If these start to drop, well, that's going to tell you the market really believes that they're going to cut interest rates, and that could be, a true positive as far as getting these yield curves, which we talked about yesterday, right? The shortest already inverted, to get that turned around. So, by the way, someone emailed me about a script for how to do this. There isn't a script. If you have eSignal, you just do that in your tools and your composite symbol manager, and you create it. Right? I don't know about other platforms, but that's how you do it in this one. You don't need any special programming to do that. And gold grinding its way higher there. Oil continuing this bull trend. And let's just look at energy. Kind of right sideways. Not so sure there, but that has to be a positive for oil, these energy stocks. So we'll keep an eye on those. We're not out of the woods here by far, even though the markets are up. Here's technology that's been the leader, topping tail at resistance. So I think the best this market can do from the bullish side is sideways chop, at least in the short term, and then we can evaluate what's happening over the few days and maybe another week or two. So that's it from me. All yours, Dan. And let's get ready.
All right, thanks. Good morning. Yeah, I mean, I at least was shocked. I think Greg was too yesterday, that we were finding so many bullish setups. I mean, I had like a half a dozen of them here, and I gave Starbucks over the high into the close, which is going to trigger today. It looks like that looks fantastic. I gave you know, we did the urban put spread. Nope, not urban. Well, let me just start from the top of opens. CGC, Condor, Michael Jackson put spread, and a call debit spread, PYX put spread, GME short stock. And it shows it only up a penny this morning, so that's a good sign of weakness. IYT call spread closed at the low, even with the market bounce. That's a good thing, relative weakness. Orly was on my watch list as a 1, 2, 3. That looks great. That's a trade today. THS, we bought the stock, so we're long stock this, and I've already tightened the stop. That looks great. ADI, nasty gap. So I actually have this on my short watch list. AAOI, continuation short watch. We're not in it. APD, I like this over the highs. It's an extended weekly, which is a problem, but the monthly looks higher. The daily's rested here. It's had 2 resting spots, 1, 2, and it'd just be a swing trade. Hey, Jimmy. F&F, that's something Alex mentioned. I'm not in it. Mr. Big, I like this. Over the highs, a continuation, nice daily, weekly. Let's see, the one we got into yesterday. Let's see if I'm missing anything. Oh, Tyson. I missed Tyson. We're long stock. That was in the letter. And also Ulta. Yep, there you go. Yep, I was just checking the open sheets. Ulta, we triggered into the last half hour. So that looks great. And it's also, this looks like a directional. Let's keep our eye on that. And CAT, I triggered a call spread in the weekly options trader, but on the other one, the advisory swing and options, I changed it to 5-minute low, because the only reason I did that was because of the deep retracement, and it's 2 weeks to expiration. So I wasn't as confident as 2 weeks call spread as I am 1 week. All right, those are all the opens, and I've given you a few that we're watching. BBBY is just in the news. I read in the journal that some activists are trying to take over the board. ALDX, I'm not sure if that's a bio, but 12, wow, that's a big gap. Wow, CCL had earnings, nasty gap to 53. Wow, that's a big, ugly gap. I mean, this thing might come down to 50. I'll put that in this. It's just not an ideal entry is the only problem. So there's Mr. Big. There's Tyson, looks great. We bought the 1, 2, 3. XLP is showing relative strength in that sector, even with the market selling off last Friday. BIB, I told you I always like watching these stocks that get crushed. Tesla, Boeing. So remember I said I have no interest in getting back into a put spread unless we have a something. This is a small 2-bar reversal, so it's not technically what we call a 180 reversal. Well, it is 180 reversal, but our 180 reversals, by definition, I would want this red bar to be bigger and then the green bar bigger. So it's just a matter of amount of shock. And it still has resistance here, but it could be the start. If this goes sideways for a little bit, then we got a price void up on the weekly, and then I'll start selling put spreads again. Wood, Would you buy a put spread on? No, I'm doing nothing with CCL. The gap is no, it's too excessive. If hypothetically, I mean, look at this weekly. If it were, even a gap to 55, a 30-minute low might be okay, but the gap's too excessive. I have no interest in that. Facebook, I said, was sloppy, but is making this bottom after a new low. Let's keep an eye on this. If there's any juice, I like this for a Friday put spread. Spiders right here, this pivot resistance. So I might be doing absolutely nothing here for 30 minutes. In fact, I got an email this morning before, Greg's review, and we talked the same language. He said he has long puts on XOP, and he said, hey, well, it's gapping up. What can I do to minimize the damage? And I said, well, day trade, it does look higher, but it's holding the 50% into this wide range bar. I said I would sell out of the money puts, leg into a bear put debit spread at least to improve your cost basis. And I said I need more information of how far it's going to get into this bar. Tilray's garbage. Tesla garbage. I mean, some of these, even though it's a garbage daily, this might be a total, unless we get something on its own page, like yesterday with Starbucks, Orly, etc. This might just be a day trading day. Look, Google, it's up. I have zero interest in trading that daily chart. Zero. Gapping up to 1207 here after this nasty 2-bar crack. 1792, same with this, but that's a bullish pre-market with a price void. So 30-minute high is a day trade long. All of these, wow. So that's my message for the day, for the morning at least. I'm only trading very unique daily patterns if they set up. Otherwise, day trade, and then let's see what happens in 30 minutes. So I'm done. That's 2.5 minutes to go. Any questions? No, for everything I just said in the last 8 minutes. No, I got zero. I like Starbucks over the high. So that, I think, is my best long right there. I got this in a minder. You're a target or whatever, TJX from yesterday, but it closed with a topping tail, but it's still worthy. It held 50%. But Starbucks looks fantastic. So that's the best no-brainer I got this morning. Let me set an alarm on this APD at 187. It's just, I don't know what the target is, though. The extended weekly really concerns me on this one.